Hey everybody, I am so excited today that on our Zing Wellbeing podcast, we are here with nutritionist and naturopath Melissa Larkins. And today we're going to talk about possibly one of the biggest topics that seem to always be there in women's minds, which is weight loss.
Definitely.
And thank you for being here, Mel.
Thanks so much for having me again. I'm really excited.
Excellent. So, weight loss. It's such a huge industry, and I think that everybody, whether you're male or female, it's always there, right? It's always talked about. It's in the media. It's on social media. It's a constant thing that everyone is always talking about weight loss. Mm-hmm. And today I really wanted to talk about this subject from a health perspective, because obviously at Zing Wellbeing we're all about holistic health and well-being, but weight does fall into that as well, because I suppose if you're obese or heavily overweight, that's obviously not good for your health. But also I wanted to talk about if you want to lose 5 kilos, like so many of my friends and people I know, me included, would have said, would love to lose 5 kilos or 10 kilos. But yeah. I guess what I wanted to know as well today is that talk about the health implications of being 5 kilos overweight versus, say, 40 kilos overweight. So let's start with that. If you want to talk to us about the health of weight, I guess.
Yeah. Well, obviously there are so many factors involved in weight, and we, like naturopaths, would kind of talk a lot about weight maintenance. And so we have tried to move away from weight loss as a term, or, saying that anyone, it's not my kind of place for me personally as a naturopath to say, I think you need to lose this much weight. It might be more, people definitely come in with those goals, but I would talk more about weight maintenance. So I think the big difference for me between those two terms is what you're explaining, the ability of each individual to maintain a healthy weight. Great, that is weight management. And yes, that may involve losing some kilos at different stages of our life. However, if our goal is to maintain a healthy weight, we move away from a lot of the negativity of weight loss and a lot of the negativity of what diet culture has presented to us for the past, say, 50, 60 years. Like we have ads still, if you scour Google images and type in smoking for weight loss, they used to advertise cigarettes for women to maintain their weight. Or a healthy weight range. And that's because nicotine is an appetite suppressant. So we have had a culture of us thinking that we need to be a certain size, certainly, and, aesthetically presenting in a certain image, and a number of different diet kind of plans. And, it's still happening today. Trendy stuff comes in and out, paleo and intermittent fasting and all these different diets. And what it has created is a diet culture that maybe has a dark side, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. I think the negativity associated with weight loss is massive. Like I see it a lot, and I think it's that the expectation that we say, we're going to lose this much weight, and then it's, if you're weighing in regularly, weekly or whatever it is, and the scale's not moving, it can have a hugely negative effect on you as a person as well as other people around you, right?
Definitely affects people's mental health, for sure. It makes you feel unmotivated to continue when the scales aren't showing a certain number. I think that we have definitely moved away from the scales, and more people are aware that muscle weighs more. As you get fitter, as you get more muscle tone, you will weigh heavier on the scales. So, like I said from the start, there's so many different factors involved in this conversation. And even as a trained professional, you can still get stuck in the mud with all of the different information and all of the different clinical trials coming out, all the different drugs, all the different diets, essentially, that you can do. And the thing is with that, not any one thing works for every one person. It comes down to like our genetics, and it comes down to where we are in our life. We talk a lot about menopause and postmenopause. Your body and the way that you respond to different lifestyle factors and lifestyle changes will dramatically change as your hormones change, for women in particular. So yeah, we just have to be mindful of all the different factors, and moving away from the scales is always a positive for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's, if we can reframe weight management or weight loss to be about your health, and it's about if you are carrying XX kilos, or you do need to because you need to get to a healthy weight, it's just focusing on your health as opposed to the aesthetics of what you look like, which I know is easier said than done. Like, we all kind of, see ourselves in the mirror or see ourselves in photos. But if we can shift the focus to be on what is the health benefit that we're going to achieve, sure, we might look better, great. But fundamentally, number one is our health, right?
Definitely. So you might find that, a lot of my patients will say, yeah, my clothes fit better. I don't feel as bloated. My knees don't hurt as much. So by shifting some excess weight, by reducing the total, load on the body, you may find that you are in less pain, you have less inflammation, and your maybe some of your inflammatory kind of markers will reduce because, physically, they're not carrying as much. But also everything starts to work better. If you have excess weight, then things will slow down. And, we can talk about numbers. We can definitely, I know as humans, we like to parcel things up in like a nice little package. So 5 and 10 and 15 kilos sounds like, nice, but we just kind of pull these numbers out of what our brain, and think that that's the right amount. Like I said, but, when I did CrossFit, I was 15 kilos heavier than I am now. But I was built, so if you have muscle mass, that will weigh more. So it's just about looking at all the factors and trying to work out the best way forward for you as an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about numbers though, like if someone is not doing CrossFit or they're not in the gym and training, and they're kind of looking at their weight and saying, you know what, today I am 5 kilos heavier than I was 12 months ago or 2 years ago. Is that 5 kilos going to have an impact on our health?
Well, there's a couple of things. It depends where you carry it. So different, places of weight gain do mean different things. So obviously, if that's muscle mass, great, we're going to move on. If it is weight around your stomach or around your important organs, so like some people get a little donut up a little bit higher underneath their breasts, then we do start to look at that as weight that might impact some other factors like your metabolic health. So weight in particular around that middle torso area is, we call it like heart weight. So it will put pressure on your heart. It will put pressure on your liver, for example. It may start to raise the hormones that control your I guess the way that you kind of feed back to food, and that will put you in a class of what we call insulin resistance. Wow. And that may have the flow-on effect of type 2 diabetes after a little while. So
that's scary.
Yeah, it depends where you put that weight on. It also depends what kind of weight it is. We as women will naturally have a little bulge around our belly button for a little while, because that is where our estrogen is stored and other hormones, and that's what our male apes look for in their female partners to make sure that they can have their baby and have their offspring, and it's basically saying we're fertile. Obviously, as you move through menopause and into postmenopause, you don't need that little pouch. So it's, that might become a goal for you to kind of move that along. If it's soft and gooey, it's much better than if it's hard. If it's hard, if you see people and they might look like they're pregnant, that hard pregnant belly, but they're not. They could be men, they could be older women, then that's weight that we really worry about, because the hard stuff is, it's difficult to shed, but it also means that you've got fat surrounding your visceral organs, which is a worry.
Wowzers. And so I'll come back to that area, but if we're gaining weight on our bums and our legs, is that a problem?
Look, I don't think it's as big of an issue for
Yeah.
your health in terms of chronic health factors and disease states, but you may feel uncomfortable. You will definitely put extra pressure on your joints, like your knees and your hips and your, ankles and stuff like that. And if as your body kind of changes in those ways, you may find that changes your whole gait, like how you walk. And that can cause issues as well further down the track.
So I think what's kind of eye-opening here is that even that 5 kilos can make that difference. Obviously, I'm guessing, and tell me if it's not, but if it's 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, that's even worse, right? That means that you're further down the track.
Yeah, those risk factors go up exponentially the more that you gain, the more that you carry. And also, as you go up, it does become harder to shift. You know, I know that somebody with more weight will lose more initially, generally. So they have a lot more to lose, right? So you might find that a lot of people find that 5 kilos is much harder to shift than 20 kilos. And that's because that person with 20 kilos is going to lose an initial part of that weight very quickly because their body will respond generally to a change. But if you're eating well and you are exercising and you have, this extra 5 kilos, you may find that that's a little harder to shift.
So funny because, I posted my own kind of journey over the past few months or nearly 3 months now. But when I put a pair of my jeans on that I always wear, I was like, oh my gosh, there is this, a much more of an overhang, a muffin top than I was ever used to. And I was like, oh my goodness, because I'd been so busy at work. And when I'm so busy, and I'm sure other people can kind of relate, is that my own fitness usually falls down because I don't have the time, right? And I was like, I have fallen into that hole, which I know is really bad. So I kind of set myself a kind of plan, which was to reduce that tummy fat, because I do know how dangerous tummy fat can be, but just listening to it is quite scary. And I posted my before pictures, and then I've been following, our programs, the food plans that you've created, especially kind of the gut health and high protein kind of ones as well, and sticking to around 90 grams of protein a day. And I don't have a scales, but I've been posting my after shots, and I think I would have probably lost about 5 kilos, but the way it's come off now I'm in menopause is so much slower than if it was 10, 15 years ago or 20 years ago. And it's and I haven't been, crazy with it. I've just been doing weights every day. I've been doing a little bit of cardio, whether it be a walk or a swim or something, and then lifting weights and then sticking to food, really focusing on food. And it's 100% come off. And I always say to everybody, take photos, because the scales, I think, is evil. I really, really do. But I think photos show you your progress, whether it's your clothes getting smaller or your shape changing, that you can't do on a scale. It doesn't have that. And it's nice to see, I even though it's probably taken me 7, maybe 8 weeks to kind of get to where I am, that time was going to pass anyway, right? Like it's going to happen. So why not focus on your health so that you can get those results? And you're not punishing yourself, you're not doing anything difficult. But I think that, I think the most important thing is to start focusing on your health straight away. And then if you do small things over a period of time, you are going to see those results, even though it might be harder when you're over a certain age, or, whether it is the last 5 kilos, like you say, which is harder.
But what that means for you is that what you've done is created a sustainable weight management plan. You will find that you will be able to maintain your current now, 5 kilo less weight for longer. If you have done something extreme or something unsustainable, you would have probably lost it quicker, but you would have probably put it back on. Because my thing is, you're always going to kind of go back to some portion, some version of your reality, like of your normal kind of plan. So if you're doing habitual changes over time, that is going to benefit you long term. If you don't eat for 2 weeks and you live on, I think there was like a lemon juice diet that I've seen in the health, those you can't live like that, you can't enjoy life. And big part of food and, nutrition and diet and all that kind of stuff is joy from sharing, spending that time with your family, especially coming up to Christmas and things like that. So if you do it that way, you've got a sustainable change, which is one of the hardest things that, as a nutritionist, you're trying to educate people on and trying to put into place, because people do want a quick fix. They want to see change quickly. And it's harder to, make small changes than make those big ones. I think as humans, we think it's all or nothing. We have that programmed in us. And that's also come from diet culture. You have to make this enormous change. You have to change everything you're doing and everything you're eating. And, you have to exercise twice a day. And that's just not sustainable for people living their regular lives, working, having kids, all that kind of stuff. So it has to fit in with what you're doing. And, whenever I write a meal planner, I want it to be something that the whole family can eat, so that, we're not cooking, or dad's not cooking 2 different meals or 3 different meals or whatever. So that is the more sustainable way to do it. You will also, there can be negative side effects from losing too much weight too quickly, not just putting it back on or even putting more back on, but also it puts your body under a huge amount of stress. You can get to a point where you don't actually detox out the same, the toxins and stuff like that you should be. You end up doing a thing called retox, and those toxins are recycled in the body and they come back and, wreak a bit of havoc. They can get into your brain and cause, the mental health stuff, so increase anxiety.
So what is that, Mel? So if you try and lose weight too quickly, your body can't detox anymore?
Yeah, it can only do so much at once.
Wow.
So your body will get to a point where it kind of recycles the toxins. That could also happen if you're not eating enough food. So one of the biggest things that, we see in clinic is that people reduce their intake of food, especially, you've seen the importance of having enough protein each day.
Yeah.
Those amino acids are really what keep the liver functioning and able to go through that detox process. So you've got kind of phase 1 in the liver, where it takes all the bad stuff out of your body. And then phase 2 is where it actually gets it out of the body. So phase 1 kind of collects it, and then phase 2 will get it out. So when there's too much pressure, it will essentially kind of throw that back at you, because it can't go through phase 2.
Yeah, wow. It's so scary, isn't it? Because diet culture, like you say, is all around quick fixes, do it now, do this, don't eat this, don't eat after this. And I think that, it is all geared towards fast weight loss, right? And I guess that then feeds into the mental health issues you get when if you don't have fast weight loss, or something happens in life or something, it feels depressing. And I think that, I know it sounds cliched, but it's like going, what is the healthy way of life you can adapt to and change, so that you do lose the weight and get to that kind of healthy weight for your body, but not have all that pressure. Because I think that's what happens, right? Because I'm guessing, with all that pressure, it then leads you to go, I'm not going to eat this, and that's depressing. Because like you say, food is great. I love food. Oh my gosh, love food. But it's kind of understanding your body as well, and understanding what you can have and can't have, and not kind of embarking on something which is so unsustainable. Like one of my friends actually a couple of months ago decided to go on paleo, and didn't eat any carbs, right? Like it was zero. And I saw them, and for the first 2 weeks they were like, oh my God, anyone who would listen, they were like, this is the best thing ever, I'm losing weight, I feel great. And then 4 weeks later, I said, oh, how's it all going? Are you still doing it? And they said, no, because after around about that 2.5 week mark, they just crashed, and they were depressed, no energy, and they felt awful. And they said they decided that their body needed carbs. They were going back onto carbs. And I was like, it makes sense to me that you wouldn't just cut out a whole food group. And carbs are great, right? Like, when I crave comfort food, I'm always craving like pasta or something like that. But I understand you've got to pair it with good proteins and veggies, and stuff like that. But I think it's hard, because people do get fixed on something. And even if, you know, you go on whatever it is, you go on for 2 weeks and you lose, you know, a few kilos, if it's not something that you can stick to, you'll just bounce back right up as well, won't you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's 3 macronutrients, you know, carbs, carbohydrates, fat, and protein. You can't just cut one of those out. Like, you know, it's not how we have primitively or ancestrally been kind of programmed genetically to function. If you don't have carbohydrates, you will not be giving your bacteria in your gut any food. So carbohydrates are prebiotics. There's different types of carbohydrates, there's different types of prebiotics, there's different types of fiber, but they all are carbohydrates. You know, like, so you cut that out, your microbiome will run out of food. It will then, you know, there's a prebiotic effect, that's the food for the probiotics, and then they produce a postbiotic. And that metabolite is super important for inflammation in the body. It's like short chain fatty acids and stuff like that. And your mental health. If you don't produce enough, say there's one called butyrate, it's like a byproduct that they produce, then your mental health will suffer.
It's crazy. I think I read somewhere last year that the average woman by the time they're 50 has done something like 300 diets or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
What's the effect of, you know, yo-yo dieting, up down on our metabolism long term for our health? Because, like, you know, I think it's one of the most common conversations women have when they get together. They talk, oh, what are you doing? What's this? And it feels like all of us go up, down. So what is the health dangers of that?
I think that mostly what we know is that you're creating a space where your body will stop responding to those changes.
Right.
You know, the more yo-yo diets you do, the less and less they will work. And then when, you know, a nutritionist or someone like me tries to come in with like a sustainable meal planner, it will just take longer and longer for that to work. Like, as if I was to compare it with someone who hadn't done those diets.
But so can you fix it long term? So if someone's listening and going, that's me.
Yeah.
They can. It'll take longer.
Yeah. You've kind of, you've wreaked a bit of metabolic, kind of
chaos.
Yeah. So you've sent a lot of different messages to your body, and so that will confuse it over time. What we know is that even if you change your diet from a diet that had a bit of processed food in it and wasn't like the best to a healthier diet, even that still puts stress on your body. So your body has to have time to adjust and you know, learn what's going to be coming in and what's not. And a big part of this is like a naturopathic kind of philosophy, that your body has to be safe, feel safe, right? And this is a primitive thing from when we were cave women, and if we didn't have a cave and we didn't have food, then certain things would be switched off in your body to protect you. That includes your fertility. So if your stress hormones are up, your sex hormones are pushed down, and it's like a bit of a seesaw. It's the same with our metabolic health. You know, your body will naturally switch off your thirst mechanism if it hasn't had water for a little while, assuming that there's no fresh water available. And for you to go and find that fresh water, you need to be able to concentrate and not be like just obsessed with thirst. So that communication gets switched off. It's the same with our appetite hormones. So if you don't eat for a long time, you probably won't feel hungry, or you won't get the normal signs of hunger like in your tummy. You might get a headache, you might get anxiety, you might get shaky, you might get panicky, all those kind of things, but you might not associate it with the fact that you haven't had food coming in. So you just, like you said, you're wreaking metabolic chaos. You're confusing your body. It doesn't know what to release in terms of its appetite, digestive hormones, its metabolic hormones. You can cause a lot of issues by doing that. In saying all of that, yes, we can repair it. Yes, it can get fixed, and it's about, like what you've done, it's about really small, sustainable changes over time and being patient. And I know that's hard when you don't feel well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that, you know, heaps of people say, oh, what am I doing? What have I done? And I just keep it really simple. Like, I think that since, launching Zing Wellbeing, and we obviously had a good understanding of health before, but I would say it's gone from here, like up to here. And especially the main things for me is really focusing on gut health, really focusing on protein, and then weight bearing exercises. So I think that, before, July when I started the business, I knew protein was important. Don't get me wrong, I knew, but like I was not having enough protein, and I wasn't having anywhere near. And I think we had a chat a few months ago, and you were saying when you see clients, no one ever is kind of deficient in carbs, no. Deficient in protein. And that was me, because now I kind of I count in my head, because my target is 90 grams a day, and I go, a tin of tuna is like 22 grams. So I'm like, awesome. So I think about it. I think about what I'm eating, rather than maybe before I might say, oh, I'll have a piece of toast. I will never just have a piece of toast. Like, I always pair it with like lots of protein, because I'm really focused on my target every day, because I know how critical it is for not just my muscles, but my health and, and everything, skin, hair, nails, functions. Definitely. And then also gut health. So again, gut health for me has been transformative over the past few months, and I really, every day I have my gut health smoothie shot thing, and it's turmeric, ginger, pineapple, and then I either throw in a lemon or a carrot, whatever I'm doing, and my protein powder. So that in itself gives me about 30 grams of protein, and it's giving my gut health, and the difference I feel in my stomach area from kind of really nourishing and focusing on gut is huge. And like you say, that's sustainable. That's just my life now. Like, that's what I do. Yeah, it is every day. And even like my kids, because I always use my blender, and then say if I'm making spaghetti bolognese, I always blend up the sauce in the blender, and they're like, oh, make sure you've washed out your horrible drink that you have, because we don't want that in ours. And I'm like, oh boys, come on. But it's just part of my life. And I think that that's what I say to everyone, is just that, make it sustainable, really focus on protein, because as we get older and we need more protein, right, especially women, and I just see everything more from that health perspective. And obviously I've been posting my visual, because the visual is a reflection of what's going on internally, so you can see, and I can see as well. But I'm going to do my cholesterol test hopefully this week, just to see how that's affected that, because I've given it a good kind of couple of months of doing this, to see as well as what's happening inside as well. But I think that what I wanted to talk about as well is, obviously there's just an explosion in the world of weight loss medication, and it's everywhere. Like, I don't know if you see it, I must get served ads all day, every day about it. We get people asking about weight loss medication, and everyone's talking about it, because up till probably a year or 2 years ago, or maybe a year, I'm not sure the exact, it wasn't commonly available, and now it is everywhere. And it is expensive, but it basically stops someone's appetite so they don't eat. However, when you're not eating, you're not getting those nutrients. I've seen lots and lots of women with the side effects of their hair's coming out, their skin is just dull and sagging, and they have no energy. And this is all because they're not eating right. So I think that it's really important that if you are doing weight loss medication, and no judgment, everyone does what they want to do, it's really important to understand and to know the side effects if you're not intaking that protein and nutrition, right?
Yeah, so so much there.
Sorry.
No, it's okay, it's good. So we as naturopaths always are working with pharmaceuticals. It's what we do. It's a part of modern life. The thing to remember is, if you are on any kind of appetite suppressant, and it may not be a weight loss drug, it may be another drug. Sometimes people, can't eat on, or find that their appetite is suppressed by an antidepressant, or you have had surgery, some kind of banding, or, that kind of surgery to achieve your weight loss goals, because, at some point you do sometimes have to make what is maybe considered a more an extreme decision if you haven't been able to shift that weight. and, you know, I said at the start, there's so many factors to weight, and one of them can be emotional. So if you've had a great amount of trauma, or you've lost a baby, or, you know, something awful, your body will have gone under such an enormous amount of stress and grief that you may never shift that weight no matter what you do. So, you know, it comes back to that primitive, I'm not safe, I am not going to let go of anything, I need to hold on to it in case, you know, it's always in case there's starvation, in case I can't find a cave. We're just wired like that. So if you have had to do something that's a little bit more outside the box, you know, when I say that, I'm saying diet, exercise, lifestyle measures weren't enough, then it is really important that everything that you are able to eat becomes incredibly nutrient dense. And we speak a lot in the naturopathic world about nutrient density. Each food has its own nutritional profile. Some of them are very low. So something like white rice, it doesn't have a lot of nutritional value. It's something that I kind of call a fluff ball in the body, or like, you know, a filler. It's fine. It's a carbohydrate. It's okay. You know, you can get brown rice. It's a little lower GI. Rice is okay, but it's not going to give you any real essential nutrients. It doesn't have protein. It doesn't have fat. It's just a carbohydrate. When we talk about nutrient dense foods, we're talking about foods that can kind of cross over the 3 macronutrients, and or they've got a really high amount of micronutrients. And when I talk about micronutrients, that's like our iron, you know, B vitamins, zinc, all those different things. So when you can't eat a lot, everything you eat has a bit more pressure on it to become, you know, really good, because you need it to serve you. So if you have had like a lap band, and then you would know that you are often prescribed a shake. And that shake is so that you, if nothing else, you are getting the protein and the vitamins that you need to be, to live, like to, you know, continue on. It still is not enough on its own, but, you know, and you can use the zinc protein shakes for that. It can be any protein shake. But yeah, like that's the kind of thing. The smoothie or the protein shake is going to be a really nice, easy way to get nutrients in. There's a few reasons why all this happens. The drugs will have an effect on your microbiome, and so will surgery. So you will have a die-off effect. So you will lose a bit of your gut bacteria, right? And for you, you know, you mentioned before, you're doing your gut bacteria and you're doing your protein. You could eat protein till the cows come home, but if you don't have the right makeup of bacteria, your body can't use it. You know, you'll use a bit, but it can't break it down, it can't absorb it, it can't do what it needs to do. So the bacteria is
and
really
that's
important.
the same with all food, right? If your gut's not there, it doesn't matter if you're sitting there eating the most perfect diet. If your gut's not right, you can't absorb it.
Definitely. And it's the same thing if you're not eating enough food. So it's not just important for nutrients and to avoid those side effects, like your hair falls out because you don't have enough silica, you know, and your body, your hair and your nails take a lot of nutrients for your body to maintain. So if you don't put them in, that stuff's going to go, because there's other priorities that it will send the nutrients to keep you alive, like your thyroid. That is more important than you having hair or nails, you know. So the stuff that goes first is the least important for survival. You know, it will send all the magnesium it has to your heart, for example, and you know, you may find that you get cramps and headaches and stuff like that because your body doesn't have enough for your muscles. It will send, you know, it will send the protein to where it needs to go, and that includes the liver to keep your digestive system functioning. And you may find that you have muscle loss, you know, because there's not enough for those muscles. So I think there's a bunch of stuff in there, but what I really am trying to say is that everything you put in your mouth becomes more important when you can't eat a lot. And it's the same if people are going through chemo and stuff, you know, like we make sure that they have some kind of easy access, like a shake, to nutrients, and then everything else is like a, you know, really small serve of like fish and broccoli and, you know, like these little baby serves, but you don't really see bread and rice and those kind of fillers in a post-bariatric surgery meal plan, or, you know, that kind of thing, for those reasons.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and I think that, you know, that's why obviously we launched the 800 to 1,000 calorie meal plan for women who were on weight loss meds or had surgery, so that, you know, because we try at Zing Wellbeing to reach and service all women, no matter where you are, no matter what your journey is. And I think it is important, especially I've spoken to an awful lot of people who have suffered side effects and they don't know what to eat and how much to eat. And like you said, that nutrient dense food is absolutely critical, you know. So I think that
more important than for you or me, who could eat some rice but still have the full steak.
Yeah,
you know, like it almost becomes more important for them that they just have that steak first, you know, and see how much room they got left. But
yeah, exactly. No,
you and I could maybe get away with it a bit longer or a bit better because we have the space and we have the digestive capacity and the appetite hormones and all that kind of stuff still regulating.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. So I think that, you know, I think it can be hard, I think, for women, because a lot of women now think, if I have got weight to lose, I have to use medication because everywhere. But I think it's really important to remember, for decades, hundreds of years, you know, people can lose weight without using weight loss medication. A, it's very expensive. B, we don't really know the side effects long term. And C, as I'm sure you will testify, like when we do something in our body which affects the balance of hormones and hunger hormones, things like that, it can have other effects right across our body. So I think it's really important for everyone who, you know, if is listening to this and going, I do need to lose weight, whether it's 5 kilos or whether it's 10 or whatever it is for your health, you don't need to do weight loss medication. I think, from my perspective, and tell me yours, the most important thing is focusing on health and going, if I change my diet to a healthy diet, then weight loss will be a byproduct of that. And that's what I've always believed, is that don't look at it on I need to lose this weight. Look at it and I need to improve my health, and because of that I will lose the weight. So it's a byproduct, because then it becomes more sustainable and it's something that you're not going to kind of yo-yo when you finish.
Totally. If you or I were to present to our GPs right now and ask for bariatric surgery or a weight loss drug, we should not be given it. You know, like 5 kilos, maybe even 10, unless you have done everything else in the world and you have multiple kind of comorbidities. So when we look at somebody, they're made up of all those different factors that I'm always talking about. Is there type 2 diabetes in the family? Do they have insulin resistance already? Is their cholesterol high? Do they have high blood pressure? All of that comes into play when we look at a patient picture and decide what the next step is. Obviously, I'm not a GP, but if they were to look at somebody with minimal comorbidities and 5, maybe 10 kilos to lose, they're very unlikely to prescribe that type of medication. So, and that's a great thing. It's because you probably don't need it, you know? Yeah. However, you know, the patient picture I mentioned before, where there's multiple kind of stress factors, there's maybe a history of trauma, there's that weight is enough that it's impeding their health and putting them at risk of chronic diseases. For sure, they may get that, have to choose between those other options to achieve their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think the problem is, though, is that in today's commercial landscape, there are a number of large online, I'm going to call them marketing companies, who are also, you know, they're saying they're health companies, but they are prescribing and selling weight loss meds to anyone and everyone. And I know this because I've talked to people who've gone there and, you know, they're not obese, they don't have a BMI of over 30, they haven't got issues, but they're getting subscribed weight loss medication left, right and centre. So as much as you say you can go if we went to our GP, and the GP is a very different experience than doing, you know, one of these other things, I worry, and I think that it's important for women to educate themselves and take charge of this, and also know that weight loss, I don't believe, shouldn't be a short-term goal that you just go, that is my number one goal. The number one goal should be health, and that if you can improve and I think, you know, we're so short-term thinking humans. We all seem to be so short-term, but it's like, it's about our longevity, right? It's about living as long as we can in a healthy and happy way, so that when we're 70, 80, we're in great health and we're moving around and, you know, we're healthy, rather than going, oh, I lost 10 kilos, but I'm so not healthy. And I think that that's the shift. And it's so difficult because of the diet culture we live in. Like, it's so difficult. It's really hard.
I live in a bit of a different world than like reality, because I'm surrounded by, I'm like, you know, other naturopaths, and I'm surrounded by people who have come to me willing to pay what is quite an expensive fee for an alternative health, you know, consultation. Generally, they're pretty knowledgeable. Generally, you know, it's a different kind of cohort, I guess, than the general public, which took me many years to realize. So sometimes I think I do have my head in the sand. I'm hoping that if you go and see your GP that happens. But I also know that you can go online and get basically anything you want now, including, you know, drugs that are going to help you die when you want to die. So, yeah, it's in an ideal world that would happen. And maybe that sentence for some of us, if just one or two women are listening and they hear that and they go, oh, well, I only have a little bit to lose. Maybe I don't need that drug. Like you said, for the last however many years, we have been maintaining a healthy weight by food and exercise and lifestyle factors. So hopefully that is enough, you know, if we can get that right. In saying that, it's, you know, it's so unique and individual. Some people can do intermittent fasting and it works really well. Some people, you know, you've done your sustainable kind of changes and you've found what works for you. So it does take time and it takes a bit of exploration throughout, you know, through all the different kind of things that we can do. But I guess for over 15 years, what has always worked for nearly everyone that I see is sustainable, whole foods, real foods, macronutrient balance, making sure that you have those micronutrients coming in. And then most importantly, assessing your different stages of life. So obviously that is all going to change if you're pregnant. If you're breastfeeding, you're going to need to eat heaps more food. And as you go through menopause and into that postmenopausal phase, you need less food, but it has to become more nutrient dense.
Which I am fully in. I know that.
And for you, you know, women who have never had any cardiovascular readings, as their estrogen clears from their body, they may get those, you know, because estrogen is really important for protecting our heart. So as your estrogen declines, you may get high blood pressure, you may get high cholesterol. Be prepared, and I don't want to freak you out, but be prepared that your cholesterol still might be high no matter what you do in terms of diet and lifestyle. Yeah. So sometimes, well, for that particular instance, it will be your genetics. And sometimes we can't fight that with food and nutrition and exercise. Sometimes that's just the basket that we're given or whatever. But you will definitely your cholesterol won't be as high as it could be if you weren't doing all that. So
exactly.
You know, like it's weighing it all up and
definitely
working out.
Now you mentioned breastfeeding there. Sorry, you mentioned breastfeeding there. And I was just it reminded me that, you know, if anyone's listening and they're worrying about what to eat in breastfeeding and pregnancy, you have created for us a breastfeeding and pregnancy plan, which is obviously higher in calories and the nutrients that we need. We've got the menopause plan, which is amazing. I love that. But we've also got our weight loss plan, which we're putting out, which you've kind of put together. Do you want to talk a little bit about the you know, your thinking on that one, so that if someone is listening to this and going, this resonates, yes, I do want to lose a little bit of weight or a lot of weight for my health, and, you know, talk to us about how that weight loss plan or the meal plans and the foods can help them.
Yeah, well, I'm basically a broken record when it comes to this stuff. I'm like, you got to eat real foods, you got to eat whole foods, you got to balance your macros. But yeah, it comes down to eating enough food so that your body feels safe to let go of excess weight stored. And that is very, very important when it comes to shedding excess fat. But it's also really important for, I guess, the nutrients that you require to lose weight need to be coming in through the diet somewhere. So there's specific things that your liver needs to be able to then process that, those stored, kind of fat cells coming through. Like, for example, somebody who has gone through multiple rounds of IVF, right? Those hormones, those drugs will be stored in their fat cells. So if you are then wanting to lose some weight, you have to be aware that whatever has been stored in the fat will be released. And so you need to have enough nutrients for your liver to then be able to do that phase 1, phase 2, take it out of the body, and then you'll see that change, I guess, physically. The plan that we've written is like all of our Zing Wellbeing plans. When I say whole real foods, that may be like you might be thinking, well, what else is food? What do you mean, Mel? But not all foods that we see and have at home or can buy are actually food. Some of them, have very much been created. And something that I'm always doing, like with every weight loss patient, with anyone who wants to do like a bit of weight maintenance, it's number 1, getting enough food into them, and number 2, making sure that food is actually kind of food. So if you look at margarine, for example, that's probably my best example. You Google how did they make margarine, look at the brown disgusting goo that it was and what they have to do to it to kind of make it yellow and pretty. It's going back to butter. We don't need to be eating margarine. It's not a real food. It hasn't come from the ground or a tree or an animal. It's basically going back to those principles. So, fresh meat, lots of fish, having plenty of water is also really important, staying hydrated. All of your organs rely on that. Fresh fruit and veg, nuts and seeds and legumes and lentils and pulses and, those basic kind of things, which I know can be boring, but I try to make them fun and, tasty as well. So,
and I think that's the point, if I can just jump in, because, there's probably a lot of women listening to this and going, that's not how I eat. If they look at what they eat, there's probably a lot of processed food because it's convenient, and, all the marketing of food companies is very much targeted to convenience. So they might hear all those things and go, oh, I'm not going to eat those. And I do have people actually come through to us and go, I can't eat all those things. I don't eat that. But I think the key thing is that it's about re-educating your body and your taste buds, because the food is delicious. I can tell you, I love it. I love food, and I wish I had a chef to do it all for me. Don't get me wrong. But when you start experimenting with flavors and seasoning and homemade sauces, that the food is delicious. And I think that psychologically you feel better straight away because you know what you're putting in there is whole food and fresh. And it can be sometimes quite confronting when you do that, to kind of accept that what you have been eating is so unhealthy, in the sense of highly processed, highly chemical, and not nutrient dense. And I always say to people, look, the most important thing is to look forward, not look back. Like, don't beat yourself up if you have been having that diet. Like, it's done. You cannot change what is gone. You can only change what you do today and what you do tomorrow. That's my mentality on everything, really, because there's no point being depressed about mistakes you've made or things. There's just no point. It's just about learning from it and moving forward. So I think that if everyone's going, nuts, lazy fish, I don't want to do that, give it a chance, because the difference you'll feel, and that is what your body should be eating. Like, that's what it should have. And the difference from gut health and energy. And I said, I think people will be astounded when when they change their diet to this healthy whole food diet, the difference it will make all over your body. Weight loss obviously will be happening as well, and it is. I see people post regularly going, oh my god, women who are like 50, 60 on our programs, and they've eaten a certain way and they've changed, and it's like it is actually life-changing for them to see the difference in their body. And it's it gives them, this is a big claim, but I'm convinced it would be giving them years on their life.
I mean,
by eating like this,
we know that
living like this.
Diet contributes to your longevity or not. It's just like the herbs behind me, they're super bitter. If you ever had liquid herbs, they are very bitter. But
I have, they are.
Yes, the longer you have them, your taste buds will adjust. And something that we know about sweet taste buds, you can read something like Sweet Poison by David Gillespie, or look at that sugar stuff, you know, which was done in Australia. Your sweet taste buds will be encouraged, and you will actually grow more if you eat sweet food all the time. So you'll need more and more to satiate those sweet taste buds. You can it's never too late. You know, like if you've been eating whatever, I don't believe in good and bad foods, but I do believe that some foods that are presented as foods are not foods. I call them faux foods. You know, if you've been eating some faux foods, and like not the good kind of faux soup, but the bad.
I was going to say,
the X,
not the PH one.
No, the faux with the X. It's never too late, and your taste buds will adjust, and your system will adjust. And some people can't eat legumes and lentils to start with. You know, they have to really build up that ability to digest those plant based kind of proteins and foods. If we haven't genetically had them, we haven't grown up with them. You know, if you grow up as a vegetarian, you're probably fine, but your microbiome will need to shift to be able to digest it. In saying that, you don't have to eat fish. I never make anyone eat fish that doesn't like fish. You know, there's lots of options. I have vegetarians and vegans, you know, so it is possible to do it with whatever food you actually like. And the food that you like is your body's way of talking to you as well. So we don't want to force you to have anything that you don't want to eat or that you don't like to eat. There's always options. So yeah, it's just about working it out. And we do help them at Zing, you know. I see all the posts and I reply when I can, and I see that the girls that you have on there are always replying and trying to help and have great ideas and stuff like that. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, this has been so interesting. Like I said, I think it's probably one of the most biggest topics in the world, weight loss, what we look like. But I think if we can reframe it to, you know, our health, and then the byproduct, well, obviously the weight is going to come off, but it's more about kind of that long-term health. So hopefully, you know, for women who are kind of in that space right now wanting to lose some weight, hopefully this has really helped them. We have so many resources on our website, so many meal plans, so many recipes, so many new tools coming all the time as well that can really help you get your health back in the number one focus. Because I think all of us as women, especially, you know, if we've got kids, we put ourselves down the bottom of the list of priorities. And I've been guilty of that many, many times. And I think it is almost a mindset change to change that and put your health at the top. Because if you're not healthy, you're not going to be in the best kind of health and mood and energy for your kids. And plus, there's going to be long-term side effects for your health and longevity if you don't. So it's just trying to make, even me now, like I know my issues, which I work too much. I'm a workaholic. And when I get into my swing of things, I'm like, speed demon, doing all these things. And I've always, the worst thing is when I get like that, it's pulling myself away to go and exercise and do stuff. But I know that about myself. So I'm making sure I set an alarm every hour to get off my butt and go and do some squats and do things. Like I make myself do it because I know my issues.
It's good. Yeah. And to eat, you know, some of us just work through, or we have little kids at home. And the thing that I see the most with my new mums is they feed their kids such good stuff. And then I'm like, so, but are you eating that? And they're like, oh no, I just make it for my kid, you know? So yeah, we gotta feed ourselves as well. Totally.
Absolutely. Well, look, this has been so fascinating. Thank you so much, as always, for your fountain of knowledge that you have. And hopefully this is going to help lots of women who are listening. Thanks, Mel.
Yeah, my pleasure.